didn't click on this message, you were pulled into it. Something in you reacted before your mind even knew why. Because the truth is this: you weren't chosen recently. You were born marked. And the moment you pressed play wasn't curiosity, it was recognition. Before we go deeper, I want you to answer something in the comments. From which country are you watching this? Don't think it's a simple question. It isn't. When the marked awaken, they awaken across continents. Not one city, not one region, not one culture. They rise like synchronized lights scattered across the globe. Your answer will show the others where another flame has just ignited. And listen with all the sensitivity of your spirit. This channel is not entertainment. This channel is not a routine of spiritual cliches. This channel is a tool, a compass, a guide forged specifically for the chosen ones who carry the letter M and the crescent moon inside their palms. Not as decoration, not as coincidence, but spiritual signatures that heaven placed on those who would walk a different path. If you have the M, if you have the crescent, if you feel the pull, then you are not here to discover a destiny. You are here to remember one. The truth begins now. Take a breath, because what I'm about to tell you is not soft, not diluted, not wrapped in comfort. It is direct, undeniable, and irreversible. You have felt it your entire life, even when you tried to silence it, even when you were made to believe it was imagination, sensitivity, coincidence, or weakness. But today you will understand exactly why you felt out of place in crowds, why you could sense things others ignored, why your heart reacted to moments long before your mind understood them. Because you were never chosen recently. You were born marked. There is a moment, a precise moment, when the chosen finally realize something. Life never found them. God never called them suddenly. Awakening never arrived one day. Infinitely more powerful, it was always there, always inside, always active, always watching, always waiting. Your mark is not a random curve on your skin. It is an imprint of assignment, an engraving of identity, a spiritual coordinate encoded into the flesh of your hands. And every struggle you lived, every betrayal you survived, every shift you felt but couldn't explain, all of it was preparation for the moment you would finally hear the internal confirmation that has been echoing since your birth. Let's go deeper. Since childhood, you were the one who saw more than you were supposed to. You sensed danger before it arrived. You felt sorrow in others before they spoke. You carried a sensitivity that adults dismissed and a strength that children your age weren't expected to hold. You weren't trying to be different, you simply were. And that difference wasn't a burden. It wasn't a flaw. It wasn't an illusion. It was the mark blooming through the ordinary world. Yuha. Spiritual intelligence since your earliest breath. You have carried intuition like a second heartbeat. You have carried resilience like an invisible shield. Not because you learned these things, but because they were already inside you before you had any language to describe them. You weren't chosen recently. You were recognized recently. There's a difference. Let that sink in. When people say, "God chose me this year," or "my awakening started last month," they're speaking from their human timeline. But the chosen ones with the M and the crescent, their timeline is older, wider, deeper. It stretches beyond a single lifetime. Their awakening is not the beginning, it is the remembering. The chosen don't begin their path at adulthood or after trauma or after spiritual curiosity. The chosen begin at birth, and some begin before birth. Your hands tell the story. Your intuition confirms the story. Your endurance proves the story. And your presence here, right now, story is unfolding exactly as it was meant to. There's something else you need to understand. When you have the M and the crescent, your life is not guided by chance. It is guided by alignment. Your path does not unfold randomly, it unfolds intentionally. Your survival is not accidental, it is protected. When the ordinary person collapses, the marked rise. When the ordinary person feels abandoned, the marked feel redirected. When the ordinary person seeks validation, the marked seek clarity. Your whole existence has been a series of spiritual signals disguised as ordinary events. Think back on your life. The moments you thought were coincidences weren't. The people you met out of nowhere weren't random. The losses you took unexpectedly weren't failures. The silence you endured when everything fell apart wasn't abandonment. It was all calibration. You may not realize it yet, but your life follows a pattern, a coded path that has been repeating itself in punishment, but cycles of refinement. The marked ones are not refined through comfort. They are refined through compression, through intensity, through pressure. This is why you have always felt like you were moving on a different frequency than the people around you. Because you were. Because you still are. And here's the turning point, the moment where everything shifts. The world is currently entering a season where the marked are being activated not by external events, but by internal convergence. And those who carry the M and the crescent moon in their hands are rising in synchronization, like a network of ancient torches being relit at the same time. You felt it recently, not as noise, not as anxiety, but as a silent acceleration inside your spirit, a pressure, a pull, a recognition, a whisper that said, there is something more. There has always been something more. Let me tell you the truth plainly. Your mark is not a prophecy. It is evidence. Divine assignment inside you before the world tried to define who you were supposed to be. You weren't chosen lately. You were born marked. And the moment you realize that, the moment you claim that truth, instead of waiting for a sign, is when everything begins to align with the purpose you've carried since your first breath. And if you are hearing this message with a strange sense of calm, clarity, or familiarity, it's because this is not new information. This is ancient memory resurfacing. You are not awakening, you are remembering. And remembering is always louder than calling. Your hands are not random. Your sensitivity is not weakness. Your intuition is not exaggeration. Your survival is not coincidence. Your presence here is not a mistake. If you have the M, if you have the crescent, if you feel the pull in your chest right now, then the truth has finally caught up to you. You were marked the moment you entered this world, and now the mark is waking. That truth in your bones. Let it settle. Let it rise. Let it claim its space inside you. Before we dive deeper, I want you to pause for just a moment, not to disconnect, not to drift away, but to recognize something important. If you made it to this second block, it's because something inside you refuses to be ordinary. Something inside you refuses to sleep. Something inside you refuses to accept the shallow explanations the world offers for the depth you carry. You are not like everyone else. You were never supposed to be. And it's time you finally honor that truth consciously. And while we continue, let me ask you something, not as a content creator, not as a voice on your screen, but as a person speaking directly to your spirit. Have you already subscribed to this channel? I'm not asking for numbers. I'm not asking for growth. I'm asking because if this message is reaching you, it's because this space was designed for you. We're born marked, those who carry the M, the crescent moon, the ringing, the visions, the internal pull, the assignments that follow them across seasons of life, even when they try to ignore it. So yes, if this resonates, If something inside you is stirring, subscribe. Subscribe because this place isn't just content, it's alignment. And before we go deeper, let me ask something. Almost like we're just two people sitting face to face. What kind of message do you want to see next? Is it about dreams? Is it about the ringing? Is it about numbers? Is it about why chosen ones cannot settle in places that everyone else calls home? Or is it about the reason marked people attract battles that would break others in seconds? Tell me in the comments. This is not the typical "tell me what video you want" request that creators use for engagement. This is different. This is direction. This is calibration. This to crystallize. There is a moment when the marked finally understand. Nothing in their life was ever random. Not the timing, not the people, not the losses, not the delays, not the restlessness, not the feeling of being different, not the intuition that screamed, "Don't go there, don't trust them, don't walk into that." You were not reacting, you were remembering. Everything that felt like intuition was actually recognition. Everything that felt like déjà vu was actually alignment. Everything that felt like isolation was actually consecration. You weren't being separated from the world. You were being refined for your purpose inside it. The letter M on your palm is not passive symbolism. It is an ancient imprint of identity. The crescent moon is not decorative curvature. It is the echo of spiritual agreement. It is the mark of someone whose life began with assignment, not coincidence. And that assignment did not begin last year. Spirituality. It did not begin after heartbreak or growth or loss or a dramatic moment of awareness. Your assignment began before your first breath. That's why your soul reacts before your mind understands. That's why your heart picks up signals the world calls invisible. That's why your dreams speak in knowledge older than your memories. You were constructed with sensitivity, not for weakness, but for decoding. You were built with intuition, not for fear, but for navigation. You were born with internal alarms, not for anxiety, but for direction. People like you do not receive signs, they recognize them. Let's go deeper into your internal world, the world you've never been able to completely explain to anyone. Marked people carry patterns. Marked people carry cycles. Marked people carry intuitions that fire without warning. And marked people carry spiritual mathematics, hidden patterns of numbers that track them through time like celestial breadcrumbs. Ones everyone talks about, not the common ones, not the repeated ones you see in every generic video. No, the marked walk with codes of activation that are subtler, older, quieter. 118, the number of sealing. It appears before a chapter ends and just before a new one begins, marking the transition of identity. 224, the number of unfolding. It appears when your internal world begins to expand faster than your external world. 707, the number of return. It appears when something you lost spiritually is about to come back in a different form. 1411, the number of confirmation, but not from the outside, from within. These numbers don't follow you as prediction. They follow you as acknowledgement. You aren't being told what will happen. You are being reminded of what you already know. The marked don't chase signs. Signs orbit them. Let me say something you've needed to hear for a long time. You weren't too sensitive. Collapse. You didn't acquire these traits. You didn't learn them through hardship. You didn't develop them as compensation. They were built into you at birth. Let that settle for a moment. Marked people carry something in common. Their life becomes the battlefield before their purpose becomes visible. Ever noticed it? Right before clarity comes, confusion increases. Right before a new chapter opens, something tries to sabotage the old one. Right before strength rises, someone tests your patience. Right before revelation arrives, something tries to distract you. Right before alignment, chaos tries to pull you off the path. This is not coincidence. This is not bad luck. This is not punishment. It is because what is inside you, the mark, the assignment, the calling, becomes louder in the spiritual realm before it becomes visible in the physical. And that makes you noticeable. That makes you identifiable. That makes you targeted. But here is what understand. Marked people are not destroyed by pressure. They are activated by it. The battles that were supposed to break you became the very catalysts that aligned you. The betrayals that should have shut you down became the filters that purified your connections. The losses that should have crushed you became the necessary emptiness that made space for your purpose. The loneliness the world feared for you became the sacred quietness where your clarity was born. You didn't crumble. You recalibrated. Because you were never chosen lately, you were born marked. The marked often describe a strange sensation, recently, something subtle but persistent. A tightness in the chest, but not fear. A pressure in the mind, but not stress. A heat in the hands, but not discomfort. A ringing in the ears, but not medical. The pull in the center of the body, but not anxiety. These sensations are not random. They are not imagination. They are not internal spiritual currents that begin to move inside the marked when their timeline is nearing an intersection of purpose. You know this moment. You felt it. Especially at night, when everything is quiet. Especially during transitions. Especially when you encounter someone with a similar mark. Especially when you hear a message like this, and something in you says, I've heard this before. Not with your ears, with your spirit. Let me tell you something that will completely shift your understanding. The M is not just a symbol of identity. It is a memory, a spiritual memory encoded into the body, a memory of agreements, a memory of assignments, a memory of who you were before the world tried to tame you, a memory of what you carry in your hands, your voice, your presence, and your destiny. And the crescent moon, it is the symbol of what is unfinished, not failure, but continuation. A cycle not is why the marked attract people who need healing. This is why the marked attract moments of decision. This is why the marked are pulled toward deeper truths. This is why the marked cannot settle for shallow lives. You were not built for the surface. You were built for depth. There is a global awakening happening, not loud, not chaotic, not visible to everyone, but the marked feel it. Every day the pressure is increasing. Every day the alignment grows clearer. Every day the inner voice strengthens. Every day the numbers appear in new places. Every day more marked souls cross paths through comments, through communities, through messages exactly like this. And this awakening is coordinated, not controlled by the world, not controlled by algorithms, not controlled by time. It is controlled by assignment. You being here is not a step, it is a synchronization. If you reached block 3, then something inside you is no longer looking for explanation. Is the stage where the marked begin to feel their internal truth rising with more force than ever before. Not through external voices, not through predictions, not through rituals, but through recognition, through resonance, through the silent acknowledgement that everything your spirit has whispered throughout your life is finally coming into view. And hear me clearly. There is a reason your life never followed the sequence that others consider normal. There is a reason your path felt interrupted, delayed, shifted, or rearranged. There is a reason your breakthroughs rarely happened on time, at least not according to the world's clock. Because the marked are not guided by time. They are guided by timing. Ordinary people move in calendars. You move in alignments. The marked don't receive their calling at predictable ages. They recognize it when the internal conditions match their spiritual identity. This is why some of the most powerful chosen ones awaken at 7:29, others at 41, others at 58, others at 73. Not earlier, not later. Always exactly when the internal stitching of their identity finally tightens into clarity. You were not late. You were not early. You were right on time for the assignment you were born carrying. Now let's go deeper. People who were not born marked try to understand spirituality by learning it. People who were born marked understand spirituality by remembering it. And that difference separates you more than you realize. This is why religious structures often felt limiting to you. This is why rigid doctrines felt too small. This is why you couldn't adopt blind beliefs without questioning the deeper meaning behind them. This is why you always felt there was more truth, more depth, more dimension, more purpose. You weren't rejecting spirituality. You were rejecting confinement. Because the marked are not built to follow spiritual systems, they are built to see through them. Intuitively. They sense deception instantly. They see people's intentions before they see their actions. They detect shifts in atmosphere the way others detect temperature. They feel lies in their chest. They feel authenticity in their bones. This is because marked people walk with internal antennas, a spiritual radar that never shuts off. And the letter M? And the crescent moon? They aren't decorations for this sensitivity. They are the reason for it. Here is a truth you've never been told. When you carry a spiritual identity that was set in motion at birth, the world rarely knows what to do with you. People either admire you, fear you, misunderstand you, or try to diminish you. But they never ignore you. Even when you felt invisible, you were not. You were simply unreadable. The world tried to place you in roles that did not match your spirit. You were pushed into responsibilities that weren't aligned, acceptable, less intense. But you were created to carry what others couldn't. You were designed to see what others refused to see. You were built to survive what others would collapse under. That's why you endured storms that left other people confused about how you were still standing. That's why you walked out of situations scarred but not broken, shaken but not destroyed. That's why you healed faster than anyone expected, not because it didn't hurt, but because your spirit knew the pain was not the end. You don't collapse under pressure because your identity wasn't built in peace. It was forged in purpose. There is something else, something few people ever understand, unless they are born marked. Your body reacts spiritually before your mind creates logic for it. Have you noticed it? The sudden chills out of nowhere, the heat in your palms when you feel truth, the ringing that spikes when something is about to shift, but tightening in your chest when a room F. Sudden peace when God realigns something around you. These are not emotional reactions. They are not mood swings. They are not psychological patterns. They are spiritual memory loops awakening inside your nervous system. Your body remembers things your mind hasn't caught up to yet. Are confessions from the spiritual realm, confirmations that the unseen world is reacting to your movement. The numbers that appear to the marked are not random patterns. They are spiritual coordinates tied to identity. And there are more codes you need to understand. 505, the code of reversal. When you see it, a situation you thought was lost begins to turn in your favor. 919, the code of identity. This number appears when you are approaching a moment of self-realization or reclaiming something that was taken from you spiritually. 3663, the code of divine rewriting. Everything that was written against you begins to be rewritten for you. 1107, the code of revelation. Expect truth to surface in unexpected ways. 292, the code of spiritual inheritance. Something that belongs to you but didn't reach you in the past is preparing to return. Marked people don't interpret numbers. Numbers interpret them. When these numbers appear, it is not the universe speaking, it is you reacting. The numbers appear as soon as your spirit begins to shift, not the other way around. Have you noticed that no matter how much you try to settle in certain places, with certain people, or inside certain environments, something always happens that forces you to move? A relationship collapses, a door closes, a job ends, a conversation shifts, a truth surfaces, a feeling becomes unbearable. And suddenly, you're out not always by choice, but always by necessity. Marked people cannot stay in places where their spirit is suffocated. They cannot remain where their identity is misunderstood. They cannot flourish where the atmosphere is spiritually incompatible. You don't belong everywhere. You belong where your assignment breathes. This is why you outgrow environments before others see the problem. You sense when a season is dying before anyone detects the decay. You detach emotionally before why you're leaving. You don't walk away because you're unstable. You walk away because your spirit has already moved ahead. Every pattern in your life, even the painful ones, have followed a very specific structure. You enter a cycle. You grow inside it. You carry someone else inside it. You get drained inside it. You begin to see the truth. You try to save what cannot be saved. You accept what your spirit already knew. You break out of the cycle. You rise stronger. You repeat the pattern in a new environment. This is not failure. This is not instability. This is not inconsistency. This is the fingerprint of the marked, because the marked are shaped through cycles of elevation. Every cycle lifts you higher, even if you don't see it at first. You are not being trapped, you are being sculpted. There were moments in your life where something should have destroyed you, but it didn't, and you don't even know why. An accident avoided by seconds. Could strike. A delay that placed you in the right moment. A rejection that sheltered you from being locked into the wrong path. An illness that led you to awareness. A heartbreak that aligned you with your identity. These were not coincidences. They were protections, quiet, strategic, invisible interventions woven into the structure of your life. Marked people live with supernatural protection that does not announce itself. Nothing you lost was meant to stay. Nothing that left was meant to complete you. Nothing that collapsed was meant to carry your destiny. You are protected because your assignment is not optional. Something powerful happens when marked people reach spiritual maturity. Their mark begins to expand. Not physically, not visually, but energetically. You begin to feel sharper intuition, stronger dreams, more vivid signs, faster discernment, sensitivity to voices and atmospheres, an increase in internal warnings, a pull toward isolation, around certain people, a desire for deeper meaning. This is not a phase. This is not becoming spiritual. This is not awakening. This is activation. Activation is when the mark you were born with finally aligns with the season you were destined for. At that moment, your spirit stops whispering and begins speaking. Your purpose stops hiding and begins rising. Your identity stops fragmenting and begins integrating. Your gifts stop appearing randomly and begin organizing. Your path stops being confusing and begins clarifying with frightening precision. And this is the exact stage you are entering now. Your life prepared you. Your pain refined you. Your intuition led you. Your battles sharpened you. Your timing aligned you. Your identity unveiled you. Your mark recognized you. And now something else is happening. Something the world cannot see, but the marked can feel. A global convergence is taking place, not in politics, not in culture, spirit. Markets across continents are awakening within days of each other. They feel the same pressure. They dream the same symbols. They see the same numbers. They recognize the same internal pull. They sense the same shift in the atmosphere. And none of them are responding to the world. They are responding to the internal call that has been quiet for decades, sometimes for generations. It is your time, not because you waited, not because you learned, not because you improved, not because the world is ready.